Is that
So-
why there's something?
Let's see what the other can think of.
Guess we'll find out.
Shows you distance.
We're ready whenever you are.
So Charlene coming? Commissioner Williams.
I don't know.
I don't want to delay too long if she is.
There is a quorum, so you can start.
Okay. Is Melinda on?
No, we have an observer online, but it is not Melinda.
Okay. Oh, here she comes. You see her through the window? Well, wait just a moment. I need to clean my glasses anyway. I can't see. Horrible. Join us. All right.
Hey, sorry.
It's going. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Hyde Park City Planning Commission meeting. Today is August 19th. With us, we have Commissioner Taylor, Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Hanson, and I'm Commissioner Mose. We excused our chair, Commissioner Lee. She is out of town. She's hoping to join us on Zoom, but she's watching grandchildren, so we'll have to see if that's possible or not.
She's on there now.
It's bedtime, so.
He said she's on.
Oh, she's on?
She's on now.
Okay, welcome, Commissioner Lee. All right, I think,
It's me.
all right,
Is that what you're wanting me to do?
Yes.
The pledge and the prayer?
yes,
Okay.
we'll turn that over to you.
Okay. Our dear, kind, and gracious Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this opportunity we have to meet together as citizens of Hyde Park. We ask a special blessing to be upon this meeting, that we will be able to govern in a well-mannered way, and to know together we are trying to build a great community for us to live in and to help grow, for it to be a fun, loving place to live. We're grateful for the efforts and time that Hyde Park City employees put in, and we ask a special blessing to be with our new mayor and our past mayor, that they will be watched over and help us to return home safely when that time comes. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Please stand. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The one thing I failed to mention but not notice was your presence. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate when there's more than just a couple people. We appreciate those couple people that come all the time, but we're grateful when we have an audience and citizens come to participate in their city's future. All right, let's look first at the minutes from the last meeting and look to approve those. Are there any changes, omissions, deletions that we need to make. I'll look this way first.
I was good.
You good?
I don't have anything. I know Melinda.
Yeah, Melinda did comment.
I didn't have anything else. Wasn't
Okay. The only thing I saw was there was one that was an unnamed citizen, but he has since been named. But we won't name him here.
Voldemort.
He shall not be named. All right, do you have the changes that Commissioner Lee suggested? Or I'm sorry, Commissioner Lee, would you like to mention those if you're available?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, the one, instead of Lance Anderson, I have Vance Anderson with a V instead of an L. On the 2 conditional use permit, it had you making the motion and someone else making the second, but it was me that made the second. And then they spelled Brian Cox's name wrong. And then, yeah, I identified Dave Baker as the unidentified resident.
okay. Anything else?
Nope, not for me, sorry.
All right. Did you catch those, Mikkel? All right.
List of corrections.
Any other comments? No. Okay, well, someone else can make a motion or I can.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes according to Commissioner Lee's corrections.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Motion from Commissioner Hanson, the second from Commissioner Williams to accept the minutes as corrected by Commissioner Lee. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
I
Any opposed say nay. Okay, those have been done. I'll turn the time over now to our city planner, Mikkel, for any updates.
So before you on the dais is a set of Robert's Rules of Order. It's kind of a cheat sheet. It doesn't say cheat sheet. It says quick study. But we thought having these might help our meetings be a little more organized and straightforward when it comes to making motions and what to do when there's corrections or changes or that kind of thing. So feel free to, you don't have to try to use this as we go, but feel free to study that and put it to good use. Additionally, I wanted to give you a quick update on the applications in the queue. The Aspen Grove DA is with DRC and will have a recommendation to come before Planning Commission and then City Council.
Okay, just so everyone knows, a DA is a
The
development agreement.
And then I have 1 large lot subdivision, 2 site plans, gateways development agreement amendment, 2 mixed use subdivisions who are all trying to get code compliant so that they can come before you as well. So it's kind of quiet right now for legislative and administrative items, but that will change shortly. And that's
All
all I
right.
have.
Anything else? No, thank you so much for that update. All right. The next thing that is on our agenda are administrative items. And we have, we're supposed to come up with a recommendation for the Schreiber Foods Development Agreement. And to start that off, we're going to give it to you, right? We're going to give it to Marcus.
Correct. Thank you, Commissioner Mose. So this item is something the city's been working on for a long time, and various people in the city have been involved at various levels. So for the benefit of informing those on the Planning Commission who may not have been as involved in the process, I'm going to go through a hopefully quick PowerPoint presentation. I encourage you all to take a bunch of notes and we'll answer questions at the end to help us just get through. But I'm going to hit some of the highlights of this development agreement to hopefully give a snapshot of the negotiations that have happened thus far and give you an idea of what this agreement says. So as stated, this would be a development agreement between Schreiber Foods and Hyde Park City. We started these discussions back in February of 2025. There have been a lot of discussions about master plans. We've had site plan reviews with their engineers and with our city staff. We're drafting legal agreement. And so we are here at this point where it's time for Schreiber Foods and the city to make a decision and to figure out what we're going to agree to. They have an annexation that's pending. It's on the city council agenda next week. And the hope is to get that approved, to get this agreement approved. And then they'll be submitting some applications to start building the first building in their master plan. So it's very, very exciting stuff. We've been working on this for a while. Before we get into the meat of the agreement, I want to bring up a couple of benefits that aren't explicitly listed out in the agreement, but as we know from our code, we need to identify benefits that the city is receiving from development agreements. So one of the big benefits the city would get from a partnership or a project from Schreiber Foods is there's quite a bit of property tax revenue that would come from this. So based on the property that's being acquired and all the improvements to phase one, we estimate that the city would get approximately $140,000 a year in property tax value. That's just from phase one. So there's quite a bit of revenue that could be generated for the city. Additionally, a partnership with Schreiber Foods, they've come and presented a couple times to the city council and planning commission, talked about how they're a local organization. They donate to a lot of our community organizations that we know of around here, food pantries, CAPSA, places like that. This would bring a lot of new jobs for our residents. And yeah, they're looking to get a 15-year partnership to develop about 120 acres out near the railroad tracks. So there's a lot of benefits that the city could receive from this agreement. So before we get into the details, this development agreement requests some concessions, which means there are things that they're asking the city for that we wouldn't necessarily do for everybody. In our city code 13.10.070 development agreements, it identifies that concessions are okay, but we have to decide, and we being the city has to decide, is this a benefit to us? Meaning, is the applicant providing something to us that would merit the exchange? And so as we go through, keep that in mind. To help us focus, I've got a couple of headers to try and make the slides easier to understand. So if the title's in green, that means that this is a great thing for the city. We're all very excited about it. If it's yellow, that means that the city staff was okay with this, but there's room for discussion. Make sure that the city council and the planning commission are on board. And things that are in red are things that the city staff doesn't have the authority to approve on our own. And so we need to have a discussion with the planning commission and city council to make sure that having these things in the agreement is acceptable. But generally, going into this, generally speaking, we're okay with this agreement. It does a lot of really good things for the city, but please note as we go through, this is a time for you to express concerns and bring up things that maybe the planning commission is having trouble with. So we'll dive right into it. All right. The first item that is of concern is vesting the rights of the project. The development agreement seeks to entitle about, like I said, 120 acres and freeze the development standards and today's code in place so that they have a clear path of how they can develop moving forward. This is not an uncommon thing in these types of development agreements. It's very common to have some sort of clause to keep the development standards the same as the project develops over time. The other thing that goes with that is they're seeking a list of approved uses. And so in the definition section, there's specifically outlined what they would like to have. Obviously, Schreiber Foods is a food manufacturing and warehousing company, and so they want to protect those uses for their future facilities. They also have a clause in there that says, since they want to be zoned for industrial, and that's what they're requesting the annexation, they would like to preserve their ability to have any other project that would be otherwise permitted in the industrial zone. This entitlement investing would last 15 years. And the only reason that's significant is our city has grown a lot in 15 years. And so the big question is the city council okay with keeping that vesting for that much time? I can say from a city staff perspective, if we can get very specific in these things, do things like attach the land use table and keep these definitions very clear, that we feel like we can get comfortable with that. But we will come back to this at the end of the presentation if there's thoughts from the Planning Commission. Next item in section 6, they discuss public infrastructure. This was a section we went back and forth on for a long time. And the big concern was who's in charge of building what. And so what it came down to is Schreiber Foods has agreed that they will build all infrastructure needed for future projects. And the example here, if the developer comes in and they say, I want an 8-inch water line, but our fire department says, well, to meet fire demand, you need to upsize to a 12. And the developers will be forced to do the 12 to comply with the code. On the other end, if that same situation were to happen and the city says, well, we know it says 12, but we want you to do 24 because we're planning to have a water park down there. It's just an example. The city would be on the hook to pay for the difference in that upsizing. And this is already a provision of state code. And so we are very comfortable with this provision. I feel like overall this would be this is a benefit to the city that we get a commitment from them to build any infrastructure that their site requires and not have that be something that the city has to come up with money to fund for them. Next item, it's a clear benefit to the city. They have agreed in section 7.5 stormwater drainage to work with the city to create some regional stormwater facilities out of odd parcels that may be created by the project. Those parcels will be dedicated to the city to be a stormwater facility. Anybody who owns property in the area knows that stormwater is a challenge down there. So we thought this was a great opportunity if this deal were to be made for the city to try and come up with a solution for those drainage problems that are happening down there and get a place for the stormwater to go so it's not dumping onto anybody's property or causing problems. There is the stipulation that Schreiber gets to participate in the plan for the parcels, which is perfectly appropriate because they're going to own them in the first place. And then more details would come in as the site develops. So that's a great benefit that we're very happy that they agreed to. All right, our first item for review, 600 South, the roadway that would connect to the first phase. The developer is requesting a smaller cross section than normal due to the airport cutoff. And essentially, the request was nobody's going to be using this road except us, and the city has some infrastructure at the end of the road, and the airport's not going to move for the foreseeable future. And so we would like that to be a smaller cross section that would serve our needs. And the city staff approved the concept plan. We think it's a great idea. But again, there is some room if the city council and the planning commission is not comfortable with that, there is room for further discussion. Here is an example of the cross section. This is also included as an exhibit in the agreement. And there was a concern about half the road being in Hyde Park and half being in North Logan City. I do know that the project engineers have already reached out to North Logan City and are already planning how they would construct the other half of the road and when that would happen in North Logan City. And so we are not too worried about that. All right, the next item is one of concern. And this one again is mostly concerned because we as city staff don't have the authority to sign off on this. And so we've talked about it with the with Schreiber Foods, and we think we have a solution, but we need the city council and planning commission to tell us if this is the way you would like this to go. We'll have some maps coming up shortly. So there's a big concern with some of the roadways that would go through this area. 1000 West in Hyde Park addressing goes through this site. And the developer has agreed to build out their portion of the road to where it's already existing and it's already built out halfway as part of phase 1. They've also agreed to dedicate the necessary right-of-way for the road throughout the rest of the project. Now, the big question is, the developer's requesting that we deviate from the master plan, the road master plan the city's adopted to curve the road around the future site. And what happens is that curve ends up cutting off 900 West, which is also one of our master plan roads. And so that's the big question for the city leadership to consider, is in approving this development agreement, we would be committing to approving a change to our master road plan. And so we as city staff, it's our job to protect the integrity of the plan, but also if you want to change it, we'll help you change it. So this is just a heads up that this is included in the plan. It's one of the concessions they're asking for. This is an exhibit straight from the agreement that they're requesting. Some additional information here. This screenshot over here is taken directly from our master plan, except I added a few little red dots to show where the road alignment would potentially be, and the large one is where the cul-de-sac would be at the cutoff of 900 West. So some more context to this site plan. 1000 West is a regionally significant road, like our Wolfpack Way corridor that we're building. And so it's eligible for a lot of different grants and funding if the city would like to go out and get money to build it. The Cache Metropolitan Planning Organization, or CMPO, has already verbally approved the reroute. They basically said, as long as the connection is made, that's what's most important for us. As long as the traffic can flow through, then that's what's important for our plan. And 900 West, as I mentioned, is only on the city master plan, not on the CMPO plan. And so that's more of just the decision that we as a city would need to make if we want that to be preserved, or if that's something that we can live without. The 800 West corridor, which is kind of the Wolfpack Way equivalent on the other side of the highway. A lot of people are worried about that road. That road alignment should not be affected by anything in this development agreement. Should be far enough away from that, it won't be a problem. Okay. The next one, and I think this might be the last one. Yeah, here we go. The last one. All right. The last one is a concern about this. Section 10 of the agreement talks about successors and assigns. Schreiber's requesting that the agreement will be transferable to other parties. There's a lot of nuance to that. So one of the things they're requesting is they have a lot of partner organizations to help with development of the site, long-term maintenance, with financing and moving money around. And I don't understand all the parts of it. And so really the city staff and the city attorney were completely fine with any partner organization under the Schreiber umbrella to maintain ownership and be part of this. And we would still offer them the same benefits that we agreed to with Schreiber. The main concern that we have discussed with them is that this is a deal. The city's excited about making a deal with Schreiber Foods, right? They've come in, they've proven that they are a great community partner at their facilities in Logan. And we're excited to have them be a member of our community. But what we would like them to have in this agreement is if they're ending up selling it to a different entity with different goals, we would like to have an opportunity to have that entity come back and renegotiate with us, because we would like this deal to be unique and special for Schreiber Foods. And so that's one of the things that we're still trying to iron out, but I'm hoping to get some feedback from the Planning Commission and City Council about that specifically, if you have thoughts regarding that. So in summary, is this valuable to the city? Absolutely. This would be a great deal. It would bring a lot of revenue, a lot of jobs, a lot of long-term benefit. But the big caveat is there are things in this agreement that we cannot just agree to as city staff. And so we're looking to the Planning Commission and the City Council to tell us if you're okay with what's being proposed or if we need to pivot. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I just want to verify, this doesn't show anything about a public hearing. Is that correct?
Correct. So the public hearing will be held at the City Council meeting next Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday, not our typical Wednesday. We'll be having a city council meeting next Tuesday at 7, and that's where there will be a public hearing for this development agreement.
All right. And it wasn't advertised as a public hearing, correct?
This was not advertised as a public hearing.
Okay,
I guess one other piece of information, this morning, there was a different version of the development agreement that got sent out to everybody. There was some things that we were not happy with in there. And so that is not the version we were discussing tonight. The version that was sent out with the public materials in the packet and that is currently available for the general public to view, that is the version we are talking about. And
version 3.
yes, we're calling it version 3. It's a version that we had sat down with the legal representation from Schreiber Foods several weeks ago and hammered out a lot of details and got it to a good spot. The version this morning had a few changes that hadn't been fully looked at by everybody's legal. And so we said, let's work on the agreement that we already have an understanding on.
Okay,
So yes, the version that's in your packet right now is the version that we're discussing and talking about moving forward.
okay. So I'm sure that there are lots of questions. I've got several written down from notes from before and notes from from your presentation now. Why don't we start here and we'll work our way across or here, and then we'll just kind of switch up. You have any questions?
I do have questions, but it's probably more clarification. Can you elaborate a little bit more? And maybe you said it and I missed it, but the vested time for 15 years with our city growing, what's the con of that? Just utilizing too much of the acreage for future building? Can you explain that to me a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm happy to go into more detail and Mikkel can chime in if I miss anything. I think the biggest concern that the city attorney and that we have is so much has changed in the city over the last 15 years. I kind of breezed by it, but in the slide, I looked up some census data and our population grew by about 50% in the last 15 years. And just think of how much our city has progressed, how many new businesses have come, how much our processes and codes have changed. So the big concern is, if we vest it for 15 years, are we putting ourselves in a position where we would be, have problems down the road? And of course, the city attorney, it's his job to point out risk. It's our job as city staff to point out things we're nervous about. And so that's something that gives us pause and makes us a little nervous. But if there's good criteria in place and the city's comfortable with that, and you don't have a problem with granting vesting for that period of time, that's a decision that you can make.
Okay. The master road plan, is it just their building plan that makes them have to curve the road? Is that their infrastructure, or why do they want to curve the road based on, can they not adjust it to line up with the master plan or?
Yeah, we looked at a couple of different alignments. Really what it came down to is having it go straight according to the master plan as it is today. That would cut their phase 3 building off. Here, I'll put this back up on the screen. It's a little smaller.
So it's their structure.
So they have
just the way the layout is.
phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, based on the property that they are purchasing. This is their ideal layout. Having 1,000 go straight would cut up their campus. And essentially when we started these negotiations, that was something they did not want to happen. They wanted to have a connected campus where they could take a forklift from building 1 to building 2 to building 3 without having to deal with fighting traffic. So we went through a couple of options and eventually this was settled on as probably the least invasive for them. And then they did agree to dedicate the right of way. But yes, it's really largely based on their desired site design.
So it's in red, which means the city's concerned about this?
Right. In the fact that we, as city staff, don't have the authority to override the master plan.
Yeah.
It's up to you as representatives of the planning commission and city council to decide if that's what you would like to do.
Okay.
Of course, it's our job to say we want it to go straight because that's what the master plan says right now.
Okay.
But if you want to approve this agreement and agree that we're going to change the master plan, then the new master plan is the one that we will defend
I
you
don't
know.
think that really concerns
Sorry,
me as a commissioner, but
Okay.
um, I think
can I-
neighbors,
one?
oh,
So-
can I just finish one more? Oh, do you want to talk about that? Okay.
Yeah, seeing how it's up and we're talking about it. Why does 900 stop out? Why doesn't it just merge in with the curved version of 1000?
That was an engineering concern. There was a concern about connecting it up and into 1000. It was going to create some traffic problems there. And so the engineers for Schreiber Foods proposed the cul-de-sac configuration for the end of 900 West. I'll admit that our,
Build a stop sign?
yeah, I mean, really it's for turning around fire trucks or other vehicles. That's why we would want some kind of turnaround there. But yeah, we looked at maybe doing a four-way intersection or something to that intersection up there where phase 2 ends and phase 3 begins. This was just the one that their engineers were proposing, and we said, well, it seems like it would be okay, but really we need the city council and planning commission to tell us if they're comfortable with
I
it.
mean, it's not the hill you want to die on for this, but it just seemed like it would be easier if it was connected and people wouldn't go down and have to turn around all the time.
It is an odd intersection. If you were to take 9th and continue on to the north, because it's sideways, but north is to the left.
No, I understand.
But yeah, you've got 10th West, and then you've got, is that 9th, 8th? What is that? That butts into that.
That's
This
like
one?
400
Here.
south.
1000 West.
That's like 4 south or
Oh.
something, isn't it?
North, south,
Yeah.
and then you have this come in at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you could reconfigure that though. I'm just saying, it just seems
It just-
weird to have a dead end there on
Yeah.
900.
It looks like a European intersection that was because they built it 400 years ago.
I understand.
I do have issues with adapting our master plan roads because I think transportation and traffic are huge. Looking at how we've exploded in population, I think keeping traffic flowing I think letting go of anything that could possibly go through is a huge negative.
Well, I would see this, I mean, I don't have heartburn with this, but I would see this as no stop sign in the whole loop. But if you had to go through their campus, I'd see stop signs. So I'd actually see it probably being slower
Yeah,
going through than going around.
if we could connect it instead of stopping it.
Oh, you're talking 900. I thought you were
Yes.
talking about the,
Oh, no, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
okay,
I'm
never
talking
mind.
about 900 because
Not
that's,
the loop.
yes, to keep connectivity and not have dead ends, I think it leaves our options open in the future. We're talking 15 years. So 10 years from now, we may go, oh man, we shouldn't have cut ourselves off right there. We should have left the ability to connect.
But is 900, it's just a Hyde Park Road? Is it supposed to go to North Logan Connect?
Yeah, I mean, there is some connectivity to the south, but really as far as regionally significant connecting multiple cities together, it's not on the regional plan. And so it's one that's on our master plan because we wanted to have connectivity through the area, but it's not one that the county has prioritized for like grant funds.
So we're only talking one block of 900 West is all that really exists in Hyde Park?
Yeah, right now it doesn't really go anywhere. But the plan was to take it kind of connect it right through here. Oh, great. Thank you, Mikkel. So that was the plan, is it would go straight and connect up with this existing road
I
where
understand.
there's some developments happening there.
Right.
And really it's just to preserve the grid system. That was a recommendation in our master plan, was to keep straight roads in the grid system as much as possible.
Understand. Well, we're not trying to connect our 900 to the south to North Logan, and they don't care if we connect or not.
North Logan, I don't know if they really have a dog in the fight as far as 900 West goes, but they are definitely planning on connecting to our 1000. That's a big road for us and North Logan and Smithfield City.
Got it.
My point would be just to leave options open rather than agree to stop. We can leave that as an option. Because none of us could have, I don't think anybody that lived here 15 years ago could have possibly guessed where we'd be now. And I think 15 years from now, we're going at an exponential speed of growth. So why not leave it open? What harm is there if leaving the option open to connect if we want to bring it around? And give it an on-ramp to the next, 1000. So they can get off 900, go on to 1000 and come back onto 900 if they want,
Yeah,
or cross over it.
I believe we do have representatives from Schreiber Foods online. I don't know if they're here to talk to anything or to answer questions. They might just be here to listen. If you wanted to recognize them to answer specific questions, I mean, it's your meeting,
Yeah.
Chair, you
I
can,
just
you
think
can
we
do that.
discuss it amongst us now. at this
Okay.
time.
They are, I believe they're also planning on attending the public hearing in person at next week.
That's probably the proper place for them to be
Okay.
presenting this also.
So would the dedicated right of way to Hyde Park that they're gonna give, would that include 900 going all the way to intersect this? Or was it not gonna include that?
No, it was just,
Just 1,000.
it was just based on Exhibit D, the site plan, and it was just 1,000. I believe, I believe we had talked about getting 900 dedicated, and this would be one of those odd parcels where we were going to talk about having stormwater drainage. And so we weren't too worried about getting right of way dedicated for a turnaround for 900 because that's one of the parcels with the storm pond. But yes, the agreement does explicitly state dedicating the right of way for 1,000 West.
Okay.
All the
So
way
that
through.
would, it could have been your option. If it was dedicated, then it could always be added later.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, Heather, do you have anything else?
I do, yeah. Probably the biggest thing where I have questions is probably the agreement. I think it is with Schreiber's and it should stay with Schreiber's. The city giving them 15 years, correct, right? It was 15 years vested.
That's what's in the agreement right now.
Yeah.
Correct.
I just think it should be with who we make it with. That's probably my concern. That was
Okay.
the city's concern as well. And that's really all I have. I just want more information there to help that concern, but I just think saving all that acreage, who knows what the growth is going to be. I wouldn't want them to go and make other deals with other companies and us not have a say in the city. But that's where I sit right now today. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Why don't we jump over Ned?
Yeah, but on the vesting thing, I was thinking, yeah, I don't have an issue with them having the 15 years for them. Or any of their partners, or anybody that was to buy them, you know, if somebody came in and purchased this facility from them and they were gonna keep the same thing, I wouldn't have an issue with it either. So I guess it's the only thing is you don't want them to subdivide it out to welding shops or whatever, you know, random people that are in the industrial zone, but I don't know that it's my deal breaker either. So I just would be better, whatever you can negotiate there, I think.
So you would even say that as long as the intended uses are the same, you wouldn't necessarily have a problem with it trading hands.
Right, just if
Okay.
it completely changes to some of our crazier industrial things, you know.
But if it was sold, a really terrible example we use is if they came in and sold it to some data center, we would not be cool with that.
And I agree with that. So I guess that's where more information needed to be shared. If it's going to follow the same guidelines, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if they go outside of the guidelines and they have say and the city doesn't, that's where I would have a concern.
And to be fair to the folks from Schreiber Foods, since they are online, I promised that I would represent this in an unbiased and fair manner. There has been no talk about selling it off to a random third party.
Right.
It's always been discussed that this would be a deal for Schreiber Foods and they would be the long-term partner. This is simply a protective measure, right? If something were to go wrong, their plans didn't work out and they needed to get out and sell the property, we would just want that kind of thing. If they're going to sell it to different company that does something completely different than food manufacturing, food warehousing, that's where we would want to be able to go in and either terminate the agreement or rewrite the agreement with whoever the new party is.
Well,
Right.
I noticed on your slide that it did say for those two, food production, food storage. And then the third thing was for anything else that's currently industrial. And right now it's zoned industrial anyway, so.
It would be. That's what they're asking for in the
okay.
annexation petition.
So I think maybe including the land use table showing exactly what industrial is right now would be a prudent thing to put in there so that there's no question as to what can or cannot be done in that area.
So having a new exhibit added to the agreement.
Right, and I think if not currently, then it's probably going to the city council. Data centers are not allowed in the city.
Yeah, we ended up putting some we had our summer intern put in some protections for us in our land use code while we still figure out some of the complicated things related to,
So as of this moment,
yeah, the bigger, scarier things
So-
that we're hearing about across the
And-
state.
pretty satisfied with what we have as far as what can and cannot be done in industrial zones. So I think nothing would be done there that isn't already being done in other places within the industrial zone.
Okay.
Well, I think the
So-
big deal is though that you're freezing the standards for 15 years.
Mhm.
So it may, 10 years from now, we may change the standards and it may be much more difficult to do stuff down there. But they could sell off the land to some schmo and they could then be grandfathered in under the old standard. So
Mhm.
that's, I guess, the one that we're trying to protect, right?
Yeah. But again, where we as the city staff are saying, what with this deal was with Schreiber Foods, right?
Right.
I get if they try to sell, they're trying to market the property, they're trying to make it attractive for a buyer. But really, we want this deal to be with them. And if
No,
they're
I
gonna,
agree with that.
okay,
I totally agree with that. It's not just
Okay.
allowing something in there. It's also that they get to go back in time in the standards.
yeah, I mean, I guess the other benefit is if Schreiber decides that they're gonna start, a subsidiary company to help manufacture something they need for their assembly lines, potentially they could do it here, and that would fall under the Schreiber umbrella.
Sure.
And so for
And
us,
that's fine.
we wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that because it's still within a benefit to Schreiber as a company. Yeah, I don't think that would be a problem.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay. Ned, do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
Any questions? Charlene, you have any
Do you
questions?
have any more, Ned?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
That was all the ones I had.
While we're on the subject of the transferability, I would agree that that would need to be written very tightly to stay with the intended purposes for that area. Like Ned said, especially since we're freezing them back in time, that could, depending on what the new rules say, that could make that more marketable for them to sell to a third party.
Mhm.
If they get to step into their shoes, which they would if they're going to transfer the contract as is. So I think we need some really tight requirements or subject to approval to make sure that we see that those purposes are the same purposes that Schreiber Food was going to use them for.
Okay,
Otherwise, I think we just increase the value of their property, and if things change in the future, which in 15 years, a lot can change, we just make their property more valuable for them. It might make it more incentive to sell too.
Right. I mean, they've been a partner here in the valley for
Yeah.
at least 30 or 40 years now, so I don't think they're going anywhere. So,
We assume they won't, but
Yeah.
it'd be nice if we tied all those
yeah.
loose ends and dotted our i's and crossed our t's. So that's transferability. We talked about 900 West. I think we keep everything open as possible for traffic in the future, just because I think none of us have a crystal ball. And if someone does, yay, we can decide whether we need that or not in the future. But if
Okay.
we don't, I think keep our options open. I was looking at what was green for benefits, because obviously the development agreement's a contract and we're looking at consideration. Is there adequate consideration? Are we getting enough out of it for the city to make it worth us making these concessions, freezing it for 15 years? That's huge for them. Bending our master plan road, that's huge benefit for them. Do we have the same amount of benefits to the city? I see property taxes. I saw public infrastructure, which I would think, because if it needs changing, that would be because of their development anyway, right?
yeah,
So that's really not a city, but I wouldn't put that green. I'd say that's like just a fact of they're developing if they need it for their facilities. Make it bigger.
Charlie, can
Oh.
you speak into the
Oh,
microphone?
sorry.
Say it all again. Just-
I'll say it all again.
Start over.
Okay. I was looking for the consideration because we're giving, if you look at it as a scale, we want to make sure it's adequate for both sides. For the Schreiber Food side, it's huge. 15 years is a long time to be frozen invested. Moving our master plan roads, that's huge benefit for Schreiber to work around their facilities. That's huge. That's on the Schreiber side. I'm looking at the city side and I see property taxes, which is huge. There's this, that we're trying to get commercial. I'm trying to understand how 6 and 7 or 6 and 7.5 are what would really be benefits for the purpose of qualifying as consideration, like if they need different infrastructure, that's their need. So I wouldn't say that that's a benefit to the city. That would be my argument. But 7, help me understand stormwater and drainage, how that's a benefit to us. Is that taking care of a problem that would be there if they didn't develop? Or is it, are they just solving a problem that will be caused by their development anyway?
No, so down in this part of the city, there's already groundwater issues. There's already storm drainage things happening. So really what this is talking about is not just creating a pond for their warehouse, but creating one that has extra capacity for other things that could happen and to accommodate problems that we are aware of that are happening right now.
Okay.
And so that's why this would be a really huge benefit for the city, is they're essentially offering that they would dedicate that to the city if we would agree to partner with them. And of course, they'll want to have some of that capacity for their facility. But then beyond that, we would create extra space to accommodate other things that are happening down there.
Okay, so they're not just doing stormwater drainage for their facility. They're going to make sure it's big enough to accommodate runoff from surrounding parcels that they don't own
Yeah, we're
as a
looking at
benefit to the
having
city.
a region, it's called a regional stormwater facility for a
Mhm.
reason. We want it big enough that we can accommodate lots of stormwater that's generated, not just from their warehouse, but other projects that maybe were built a long time ago and their stormwater was never really properly addressed. But now we could have a place where that could be channeled and contained and not be infiltrating on other people's property.
Okay, I could see how that's definitely, so we've got taxes and the stormwater, regional stormwater on our side to make
I-
sure we're getting benefits.
Yeah, I also just think having Schreibers in Hyde
Yes.
Park says a lot. I mean, Schreibers has made a name for themselves. And so I think that's attractive that they trust the city, that it could bring more people, like maybe commercial, who knows? I think it has a good impact on the city.
I think one benefit that wasn't even outlined there is that their facility is a very expensive facility
Yeah,
compared to everything else that goes in this valley. This is, those facilities 10 to 50 times more expensive to build than, so that
Better taxes.
better taxes, they're going to put a bigger
Yep.
investment in it. It's going to have more stability. It's not going to be somebody that's just going to pack up one night and go.
Yeah, they've talked about
Long-term
having
income.
a lot higher paying jobs than typical. They've talked about having a lot of automation happening in there. So it's, very new, very efficient technologies. And so, yeah, it's not just, assembly line jobs. They need skilled positions there, people who know how to, do automation and work on these expensive machines. So yeah, it's
It's hard to get a partner like this to come into.
Mhm.
yeah, and
So,
if they
I
do what
think
they
it's
say they're
big
going to do,
benefit to
I'm going to make them give
our-
us all a tour because it sounds like it's a really cool facility.
So put a new green one.
Yeah.
They're being located here
Mhm.
Yeah.
is huge.
Yes.
And is this the one that when they came and did the presentation, they said it's
Yes.
going to create 75 jobs?
yes.
Yes. So phase one, because there's a lot of automation happening, maybe it's not, hundreds of jobs, but it's 75 jobs for one employer for Hyde Park City is a pretty big number. I don't think we have very many employers in the city who have that many people except the schools. So that's a pretty big deal for us.
And they're not, if I remember right, they're not doing any storefront type things with this, right? It's all storage,
like
freezing, manufacturing.
West.
Okay.
Yeah.
They've said as their business develops, maybe in the future phases, they could have something, but phase one is anticipated to be cold storage. They're probably not going to be selling yogurt or whatever out the front door.
It'd be
there.
cool if they had a Gosner like front that had some retail commercial end of it in the future.
That would be.
So they're open to that. That's not a,
Yeah, I mean,
Weird no?
I would say it's unlikely based on our conversations, but never say never, right?
Well,
It's a
Drivers
possibility.
doesn't really sell direct.
True.
They'll sell to McDonald's or whoever, so.
Now, there is
McDonald's
a
isn't-
potential for us to get sales tax from these facilities just based on buying and selling out of the facilities, but having a direct to the consumer is highly unlikely.
so we can get taxes based on their,
Sales taxes, I'm not going to go into all the details, but in Utah, they're generated off of point of sale. And so I guess it depends on how they set up their facilities, how they do their internal paperwork. As of now, we are not factoring in sales tax as a revenue generator for any of these facilities, but it's not necessarily off the table. It depends largely on how they run their business moving forward. And so we aren't factoring that in as a benefit to the city, but hey, if it showed up, we would sure be happy.
it'd be so.
Is that everything? All right. Melinda, I know you had something that you wanted to say. Would you like to say it or would you like me to read your statement?
Let me see if she's still here.
She may be.
Okay, sorry. I was trying to figure out how to unmute, hit the wrong button. Do you have me?
Yes.
Okay. So one other thing came to mind when you guys were talking about stormwater. Yeah, that regional stormwater plan sounds great. Are we saying that like they install that and develop that, but then the city maintains it over all those years? That's a major thing on cities. There's lots of subdivisions and neighborhoods that would love to donate their stormwater ponds back to the city, but the city does not want to take on that additional work. So if there's so much space to make those stormwater places, I would almost think like let them have theirs and maybe give us space to do our own. But I'm not sold on the city maintaining theirs as well, especially as
Okay.
they grow.
Let me
Yeah,
just see if
and
I,
then-
let me repeat that. I'm not sure if everyone caught that.
Okay.
My understanding, what you're saying is that you're worried about them deeding over the stormwater systems to the city, and then we have the responsibility of maintaining those when we have already so many other stormwater ponds and whatever else we need to maintain as a city because of other subdivisions throughout the city. And it just doesn't seem right that they couldn't take care of it since they're right there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that maybe there should be two instead of one for them to maintain and one for the city to maintain. I don't think the city should maintain Schreiber's.
Okay,
That's a good point. 'Cause that's a
Yeah.
huge
thank you.
facility.
Anything else?
Yeah, I have my other two issues that I've had the whole time. I would love to see Schreiber come to Hyde Park City. I do think they're a reputable and successful company. In my position as a planning commissioner, it's my responsibility to study these land use issues and vote as I see best for the city as a whole. I also know by experience when the city cuts corners or allows others to, we inevitably regret it. So I appreciate all of the other things that you guys have brought up that maybe I didn't catch as being quite as critical. But the two that I care about are the current development agreement shows Schreiber plans to build phase one, but not the full accompanying road. If anyone builds a project in our city, we require completed infrastructure for the entire length of the parcel of each phase, even if part of that infrastructure remains unused for a number of years. Schreiber proposes to build the road only part way up to phase one, and I have a problem with that. My other concern is the 1000 West Road. Instead of going straight, Schreiber proposes curving it out and back again. I'm not opposed to the curve, but the original road on the master road plan would bisect their property, meaning Schreiber is responsible to build the entire road, not a half road. I'm willing to consider the curve instead of a straight road. I'm not willing to have only a half road because the developer redrew it so far to the east that it's partway onto another's property. I think they should build the entire width of the road. That's not fair to push it so far that all of a sudden, like, oh, look, it's halfway on the other property. They can be responsible for it for half the road. So to me, these are shortcuts that do not demonstrate good faith on the part of the developer. So for these two reasons, my recommendation to City Council would be to not approve this development agreement as currently proposed. That's all I have.
Okay. I had a hard time understanding, but a lot of that might be my hearing. But I did read your statement, so just to restate it, your biggest, one of your concerns, I don't want to say your biggest, but I think your main concern is that we demand of other developers to complete all the infrastructure such as roads as part of the project, and this project, we're cutting that up and we're they're only doing part of the road. And they're
Correct.
expecting us to do the rest of it. And you're
Well, I
opposed to
think,
that.
well, I think they intend to do the rest, but not, they're saying later. But I'm saying they need to do the road as far as phase one goes.
So the
When-
development agreement currently shows they would complete 1000 West. I got a thing up on the screen here, up to phase one. Essentially, the half road that exists, they would build out the rest of that road all the way to the end. However, phase two of the road, which is up to that 400 South intersection that everybody was such a huge fan of, up to the end of phase three, which would be ending one parcel shy of Center Street. They're proposing to dedicate all of that right of way to the city, so give us all the property for the road, but they are not proposing to construct the rest of the road.
I think that was a good point from Commissioner Lee. I look at this map and I thought it was the whole road.
I thought so too.
So I
Right.
misunderstood that. That's a
And-
good point.
And I understand how they're thinking they're not going to be using all of that right away. But I do see a need to do through what's now considered phase two to redirect some of the traffic that would have been on 600 South to, is that 400 South?
Yeah.
Approximately. We'll call it 400 South.
Instead of all this road, taking all of this can help absorb some of that traffic. I don't, 600 South is a busy road with the high school on it on the other side of Main Street and the intersection there with the light. I see their side of it. I don't necessarily want to say that we want to build the rest of the road because that's not, but it is also a CMPO road. And so there are other places where funding can be gotten to help build that. But normally we would say to a developer, you have to build the whole road. Is that correct?
Yeah, and there's some complications with the state code. Like most developments, we say you have to give us the property and build the road, right? But it's based on this concept of exactions. So essentially, the city can only force a developer to do what would be necessitated or required by their development anyway. So the really short version of why Schreiber is only dedicating the right of way and not building the road, their argument is we don't need that whole road to service our development. We only need this 600 South extension and the extension of 1000 West because that's where all of our access points are going to into our campus. And so for them, in their perspective, just giving the property to the city alone was a pretty big deal because according to their team, they didn't have to do it anyway.
But we're also moving one of our master plan roads, which is a really big deal,
Mhm.
and curving it instead of keeping it straight. Would that be a fair trade-off? Asking them to do what we normally would ask them to do?
That's why it's in red. I need to know what you want me to say to this.
Well, how long is that road that they're not doing?
Oh,
Do you
I don't
know?
have those kind of figures. in
It
front
could
of
be
me.
fit.
Well, I see that from phase two is about a block, maybe a little more because it's diagonal. But the phase three portion is 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks, which is,
Yeah, this other piece down here is about a block. Right? Is that what you're talking about? The end of phase three?
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the part, phase three, they're not gonna build.
No,
that
they are
correct?
They
gonna,
build it when they do phase three, don't they?
no. So what they're proposing is they would dedicate all of that land to the city, but then it would be up to us to build that road whenever we are ready for it to be built. Or maybe other developers can build it as they need it for their projects.
Or if we were to receive some sort of grant or other funds from
Mhm.
other through the CMPO.
Right.
Well, and normally the exactions would matter if we're doing a development agreement though, right? So kind of puts a lot more on the table than normally there would be.
Yeah, under the
Yeah.
exaction
For negotiation?
principle, we would be limited pretty heavily, but since this is a development agreement and they're asking for these benefits, the city has room to respond back and request more. I will say that, yeah, we have already kind of figured this out with them, and this is where they were comfortable, this is where we were comfortable. And so if we were to go back and want to reopen this issue, it would probably throw a hiccup in the process. And if, again, planning commission is a recommending body tonight, right? You're not making the final decision. I'm sure the city council will listen to this input and they may want to have some consideration for these items. But just know that if we're reopening this issue and saying we want you to build this whole road, that's something that we have kind of already closed. But again, we don't have the authority to fully close it. So that's why it's still a discussion item tonight.
Right. Okay. Melinda, do you have anything else?
No, I guess that's it. I guess I didn't see it as an exaction. I thought like if they owned, good night. Sorry, if let's say they bought one side of it, I thought they would have to put in that half. And if they bought the other side of that road, they would have to put in that half. Because they're on both sides, why don't they automatically have to install the entire road? If it's wider than normal, then we would pay the extra. Am I not remembering right? What happens when people develop in our city and they have to go by the master road plan?
You are remembering, which is why this is in red. Again, from the city staff perspective, our starting point was you're going straight and you're building the whole road. And as the attorneys have worked on this agreement, what's come out is, sure, your city code says this, we're deviating from city code. And since our development is only putting this burden on your city, we are only building this much infrastructure, but we will go ahead and deed you the property for the rest of the road so you can build it when you are ready. I mean, that's what was decided. Is that what the city council wants to approve? You tell me. That's
All right.
yeah.
That's all
Phases
I
2
have,
and
Mike.
3 are not going to access off of 1000 West at this time, and so there is merit to the agreement, or to the argument. But again,
I also liked her point about the storm drain. That does take a lot of city time and a lot of work. So I wonder if city council should look at that. And maybe it would be better to divide that and let Schreibers take care of their own and we'll take care of our own.
yeah, that part of the agreement is pretty open. It's kind of a thing where they said, yeah, let's work on this in the future, but we can go back and say that we want a little more specificity to that section.
Okay. Commissioner Lee, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. I did have a few things I wanted to bring up. Some are questions and some I won't bring up because we've already talked about them, but really the linchpin in this is the annexation. We're talking about a development agreement to something that is not part of the city at this point. It is within our annexation plan. So it is something that we have looked forward and seen as this is going to be part of our community at some point. So we are at that point. I guess next week is when the city council will decide whether or not to approve the annexation plan. And then it's still not a done deal because there are waiting times and other things that have to be done unless that's already been accomplished as far as people having the opportunity to rebut and request not to be a part of it.
Yeah, there's some timing issues with this. The reason it's been this agreement has been kind of back and forth for a while, and we've been wanting to get it on your desk for a few months now, but it came down to timing. With the annexation, there are state mandated notification requirements. So we have to send out letters to property owners. We have to wait a certain amount of time to give time for protest or, things to be filed if people want to fight the annexation. And after that has gone, there's a really small window where the city can approve the annexation or it lapses and you got to like start the whole process over again.
Right.
And so and the same with the development agreement, we have to have a public hearing. So that's been noticed. We're going to have that next week. And that has its own timing requirement. And so stacking them up and getting them lined up so we could have the planning commission review this tonight. And the next week we would have the annexation decided and then the public hearing for this agreement lined up like that. Took a little bit of work. And yeah, if this agreement's not going to move forward or the city council's not going to approve it next week, the annexation could still go through, but it would just kind of throw off the timing that Schreiber has been working on. So
Yeah, I just wanted to bring the point out that, it is a part of the process and it has to happen before the development agreement even can be thought, can be approved.
Yeah.
We've already talked about 600 South, half is ours, half is North Logan's. That needs to be coordinated. However, that needs to be done, not my purview, but as far as the annexation, it includes lands that are not just what Schreiber is looking to purchase. It is other properties also. And I think those people have been notified. And so just so everyone is aware of that. I also had a concern about electrical and other demands on the city. This is all really exciting for this to be happening, but there will have to be infrastructure brought in by Rocky Mountain Power and possibly Questar or whatever
Dominion.
whatever company they're going by here now. And I just want to make sure that the city council takes that into account and make sure that the draw that Schreiber is going to have on that does not put our citizens, our residents in any sort of shortage where we've got to, it's a bad example, but I don't want like data center amounts of electricity going to the Schreiber and we can't use our air conditioning during the day, during the summer. I don't think that would be wise on our part. Yeah, the only other things I think we've already talked about, keeping open possibility, the changes to the road plan, extending 9th West, to continue or even continue past on the north side to continue to 9th West where it continues on by Center Street. And then those were my concerns. And I think we've talked about all those already. This is in essence a business agreement between the city and Schreiber. So we don't sort of are out of our hands, but we just give a recommendation. So we've talked about it for an hour. I think we're about talked out. Anyone else? Does anyone else have any comments though here on the commission? Commissioner Lee?
No.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just what we've talked about.
Okay, so do we have a recommendation that we want to present to the city council?
I make a recommendation. I make a motion that we recommend they go forward with this development agreement, but try to see what they can negotiate between now and next week is some of our concerns.
Okay,
Do you want to name specific concerns in that motion? to give us a little more direction?
I think the road and the stormwater were the two that I think were most addressed, right?
Okay, so can I take a stab at narrowing it down for you?
Sure.
So stormwater, the concern was we want specificity between ownership and maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that they're taking care of their stuff, we're taking care of the regional stuff.
Right.
And then the road, which part of the road are we concerned with?
Well, I'm not really concerned about any of it, but I know the others are, so I tried to make everybody.
I think
happy.
the ability to keep Ninth open as a possibility
Yeah.
to continue
Well, and I think
is
there's
a thought.
building the road is a concern to some. I'm not really concerned about that. So,
Leaving those two
I mean, you can see what you can
road
negotiate.
options.
So to have ongoing discussions about having a connection of 900 West into 1000, the curve, and further discussion on the responsibility to build the road,
Right.
not just dedicate the right of way, but also build the road.
And,
Yes.
and that is important because tonight we're about to talk about that same sort of thing, cul-de-sacs and hammerheads, and does the city like them? No, but we're about to do one here. We're about to agree to one, and I don't know if that's what we want to do. So I know we're trying to avoid them at all costs, so
Oh.
a dead end road.
Okay, so
Actually, I
the
think-
motion is to recommend approval with a note that the city council relook at the specificity of the stormwater in the agreement and leave open the possibility of connecting 900 to 1000 and having further discussions about building the road as well as dedicating the right of way.
And didn't we all mention transferability, making sure that who it's transferred to,
Right.
the purpose, not just goals change, the purposes.
So there's three.
Do you want to include that in your motion?
Yes, I
Ed?
do.
Okay,
I would include the vested 15 years.
Well, I just.
That's
just-
a long
I mean, I'm
time.
mostly okay with it, but just,
Would you do me a favor and would you restate your motion so that we all know what we're agreeing to?
okay, here we go. I make a motion that we recommend to the city council approval, subject to considering the stormwater issue, whether it makes sense to divide and conquer or whether keep it together and how those roles would be. So revisit that. The road, the 10th West Road, whether we consider the 9th West intersecting that and the building, potential building of the road. And then the last one is the vesting for somebody that's not one of Schreiber's partners, or if you want to call it, or whatever, they're the group of people that we're all okay with them keeping those things, and how that might be limited so that something that we don't want to happen happens.
Okay.
Does
Now,
that make sense?
yes, thank you. Do we have a second to the new motion?
I will second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Hanson, a second by Commissioner Taylor. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Ned's motion, I'm not going to say the whole thing again. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have 4 ayes and a nay. And without putting words in your mouth, the concern is the building of the road just as it's required in other development agreements, other developments. Is that correct,
Yes.
Melinda? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. We now move on to, we have no legislative items, discussion items. We have 5 ordinances. Thank you so much. I understand that this is an important subject for everyone. Please come to the public hearing next week on Tuesday, not Wednesday, Tuesday. If you'd like to make public comments on that.
And there may be changes between them.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. We're going to discuss several ordinances that we want to possibly present to the city council. The first is a subdivision improvements agreement. And I think we talked about this a little bit in previous meetings.
We did, and we don't necessarily need to revisit subdivision improvements agreement, LDR zone, and the public works and the private roads. We kind of hashed all of that out. I left it on the agenda just in case you wanted to revisit any of that. The red lines haven't changed. The only thing that did change is that it really was supposed to come back to you as a public hearing this week for adoption. And I missed the deadline. And so in good conscience, I cannot have a public hearing if I did not notice correctly.
I can't
So-
tell you how thrilled Commissioner Lee is that you didn't get that published in time so that she can be in charge of that public hearing.
I'm sure.
Stop.
That was a failure on my part. And so I did include it if there were any other last minute discussions or changes that you guys thought were important. I feel like our discussion on all of those was thorough. And like I said, Kyle and I didn't make any changes to those red lines after our discussions, and they're all still in box if you want to review them even after this meeting. But the intention is to notice those three for public hearing at the next planning commission. I'm going to
Okay.
do that tomorrow.
Does anyone have any comments or want to discuss?
I can
Either
open
of those
those red
first three.
lines for any of those first three, or if you're satisfied with the discussion we had, then we don't need to do that.
So my question is, so the public hearing will be September 2nd?
Um,
Was that, would we also need to recommend or not recommend that evening, or would we do public hearing?
We would do public hearing on September 2nd, and then it would go to city council
we
for
would make
adoption the
Got
recommendation.
it,
next
got it.
meeting.
Yes, unless we tabled it, and at that point it would wait until we untabled and came up with a recommendation.
Sure.
I have one question, and it's
Sure.
probably because I wasn't here last time. And it's regarding the LDR.
Mhm.
And it's got a 25,000 square foot maximum lot size.
So.
What
one-
I'm visualizing is that we have some crazy topography of a lot that you got a big gully in it, and you've got other things, and it's gonna, you're gonna end up with you're gonna have a bunch of unusable area.
Sure.
That you can't use. And if we put a max, and I don't even know why would want to put a maximum.
Well, we put a maximum because that puts an end to people combining lots and us losing buildable lots. It also weeds out those 1/2 acre, 1 acre parcels and lots that no longer pay for themselves. Remember that the whole purpose of these code revisions was because financially anything bigger than doesn't pay for its own upkeep when it comes to water lines, sewer lines, asphalt, and all the other things that cities have to repair and replace. They just don't pay for themselves anymore, and it's not, the city can't pick up that fee of replacing those water lines for folks that aren't paying their share. And so that's why the maximum comes into play. The other thing I have to tell you is people throw around the word variance. I want a variance for this. I don't want a variance for that. What you mentioned is specifically what a variance is for. If you have some kind of feature or attribute of your property that you did not cause and that prevents you from using your property in a way that your neighbors can use their property, that's when you ask for a variance. Right. And so if there was something like that, a gully or a wash or what have you, where people couldn't use their property or get their buildable space in, that's when they would apply for the variance.
Okay, back to the doesn't pay for itself. I'm not sure that I've fully ever bought into that argument. I've seen the one study that was done regarding property tax on small lots, and it just included the amount of property tax you're going to get on the small lots. But there's a lot more that goes into the overall equation on cost, and I don't know that that was ever fully vetted out as what the true cost of a, you know, this, depending on the size of lot, depending on the income you get. So I don't know that I've ever seen anything. Maybe there's some other data that I haven't seen, but I haven't seen anything that has made me 100% convinced that we do lose money on a big lot. Because if we have smaller lots, we have more people we have to deal with. And then with more people, then you have more issues, you have more police coverage you have more everything that you have to do with just having more people,
Sure.
more staff that is required. So there's lots of different costs, not just the amount that you're going to get, you know, the income's not just the property tax, which I understand you get less per acre and bigger
Impact
lot,
fees. Mhm.
but there's certainly a lot more costs on a smaller lot. So I don't know that it's a net win to go only with small lots. So is anybody seen any full comprehensive study on that? 'Cause
I
I hate to
think-
base everything on that.
I think the basis is just they're using like a square. Lots are all different sizes. I think the frontage of the lot has a lot to do with that.
Right,
If you've got a narrow
right.
lot off the street,
Mhm.
then, you know, the infrastructure that's in front of your house,
Right.
in front of your property is less than if you have a large,
A wide one instead of a
a
skinny one.
wide lot.
Right,
And so the idea is that they just use an average. Anything more and Marcus can show you the numbers that he came up with. Anything larger than a third of an acre, I think is what he was saying, half acre lots. The city is starting to have to pull money out of other things to pay for the frontage that is in front of, you know, this infrastructure that's in front of that lot, that's half acre and larger.
right. And I'm just telling you from somebody that has a larger lot, that the reason my road was out.
We're not.
No,
we're-
I'm not,
banking
yeah, no, you're
on
not picking
you.
on me. I'm just saying, I'm just telling you, I've observed this.
So you've got it.
I've got it.
You've
I got an
yours.
acre and
You're
a half.
grandfathered in.
I know, I'm not worried about me.
I'm not
I'm just
talking
telling
about
you.
your age.
I'm just telling you, I know, I'm a grandfather too. I'm just telling you that I've watched how things have evolved over time, and there's a lot of smaller lots above me. So that just means there's a lot more traffic that's coming down the hill by me. So they're the ones that's wearing out the road. It's not the people in the bigger lots. It's all the people that
We
are moving
all
uphill.
have to share it
Yeah.
together.
Right. And I'm just telling you, so it's not a simple equation that you can just, it's a much more complicated problem than just saying big lots are bad, little lots are good. Cause I don't buy that. Cause I think in the big scheme of things, you're actually losing it by going to small lots. That's just my gut feel. And I haven't run any numbers, but I'm just telling you, that's what I think. And so by claiming the other way, I don't know that we have all the data to say that.
I agree exactly with what Ned said, 100%. Having lived through higher density being put in specific areas, you have a lot more cars. So you may say, oh, well, this doesn't pay for itself. The frequency with which it have to be replaced increases. So it may be a wash. Without that other data, I think we should not make that statement or claim.
Well, and if you guys remember, we went through some of that data at our joint workshop that we had when all of this started. That's
But-
how this all began, right?
That was only factoring in the frontage of it and the cost of it with the property tax, right? We didn't factor in, take any variables from other cities to see frequency of resurfacing if you triple the traffic on.
Mostly it was about water and sewer lines. We didn't put a lot of stock into the asphalt. It was mostly the really expensive stuff, the water and the sewer line.
Because we do increase traffic,
Right.
we increase cars on the road.
Sure.
We increase population, which is a higher strain on public services. I kind of think that we are stepping on property rights when we say you can't merge your lots. How many people actually do that? If they do, it's either of necessity. Could it be because of luxury? Yes. But if you look at 100 lots, out of those statistically in the city, how many actually merged? And are we redoing our code to block just a few people specifically?
That's not why we're redoing our
Or-
code. We're redoing our code so that we can have a zoning code that's usable, that developers will come in and be able to turn a profit on. Right now, we've had 3 different developers I met with say that half-acre lots are not going to pencil for them. So we want to provide opportunities for them to do other things. If we don't come in with lot minimums and lot maximums, then we're not providing those opportunities. And we're not taking away anything from anybody. The lot size is still, the maximum is still a little bit over half an acre. So we're not taking away from anybody. We're just providing more opportunities for folks to do things that they haven't been able to do before. Before, if you wanted to do anything smaller than the half an acre, you had to come in and rezone, right? And just in the last, from the way I understand it, the last 5 or 6 years, has there been the opportunity for R4 or R5 even? And to have to come in and rezone your property, that's a whole process in and of itself. A survey is required, title reports are required, a public hearing's required. You have to go through all the plans and all the procedures for the rezone, and all you've done is giving yourself those new parameters. Now you have to start the subdivision plat.
Yeah.
And this provides the opportunity for developers to be able to not have to rezone in order to get different sizes of lots. Instead of just saying your lots have to be acre, half acre, quarter acre, we're coming in with a scale. So it just has to fit in between these two things. We're not saying that all lots have to be one size. They could be varying sizes,
Yeah.
even in one subdivision.
Oh.
And that would provide more opportunities.
I understand that. That
Yeah.
part I'm totally on board with. I just don't know that making a maximum is right.
I just want to clarify. So if a subdivision is created, someone can't go in and buy 2 lots to make their lot
You
bigger.
absolutely can.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're not
I
saying
don't have
we're
a problem with
outlawing
that
that.
then.
We're
Okay.
saying when we put a maximum in there,
Okay.
what you probably couldn't do is buy 3 and put them together and make
So
one big.
so they could buy 2 and merge them if they want.
If they needed to and they were still under the maximum size.
then
Now,
okay.
if you have 2 lots that are half acre and you want to combine those into an acre, no, you'll be.
Can we
over
not
the-
charge
over the
them
maximum
a
size.
higher fee if someone wanted to do that?
No,
Just so-
we've lost many building lots in Hyde Park City due to people combining lots. There's people who have not had the opportunity to build a home on a lot in a subdivision because somebody decided they wanted a giant yard.
I can tell you, I merged 2 lots. It was out of necessity. So I
Sometimes
would
it-
argue 2 things. I'm not in support of putting that maximum. I agree with reducing the amount because they should not have to rezone. If they want to do smaller lots, we should have a zone to allow the smaller lots. If they want bigger, I don't think we should restrict that until we require the developers to retain and flatten every lot.
And we do require that now. You guys adopted that.
Yeah, we did.
Slopes ordinance. So that's in,
So they will have to do retaining walls between them
yes,
Mhm.
because
We
that
talked
has to happen.
we
In
had
order
that
for-
public hearing.
Yep,
We had
we
that
did talk about
discussion
that.
and we
So
had
then it
that.
would be absolutely never going to happen that someone would have a goalie on their property because it will be a level lot.
That is exactly why we passed that ordinance.
So they couldn't have a goalie and make it unbuildable.
That's what we want to avoid is unbuildable lots, right?
Yeah.
Lots with
Right. No,
washed, unnatural gullies or
100% behind
unnatural.
making
Yes.
them put all that in before.
It needs to be.
He's just not sure. I'm understanding that larger lots are the problem.
Well, I don't think a lot.
Like, that's not fair to just say.
We're not criminalizing larger
Yeah.
lots.
You kind of are by making a maximum, and I don't think I don't even think it needs to be in the code as a maximum.
I agree with.
And if
not
all the
putting a
builders want to
maximum.
build quarter acre lots, they don't have to, that doesn't affect them. But if there's somebody out there that wants a 1 acre parcel and they're willing to pay for it, then I think they should be able to have that
And if the
option.
developer says it's not penciling out, then we're providing them a way to make it pencil out. We're saying, yes, you can go smaller lots. You don't have to come rezone your property. We're giving them the tool that they say that they need without handcuffing anybody. I agree with giving them more tools, but I don't agree with turning around and handcuffing them on the other end of it.
That's just my thoughts. I mean, I wouldn't have come to Hyde Park if they were all quarter acre lots when I moved here.
Sure,
I think there's a lot of other
If I
people.
wanted to live in Logan, I'd have lived in Logan. Okay.
sure.
It keeps us Hyde Park if we leave that flexibility.
Yeah.
And that makes us different from our surrounding neighbors.
Okay, any other discussion about that?
Okay. Let's move to D, ordinance
The ADU?
2026-18, ADU ordinance revisions.
All right, I'm going to start with some slides. So as we move through our cleanup and tidy of our code, the very first thing we're gonna do is, remember the definition that we just adopted in 12-2010. What we need to know is, do we need that definition to stay in the ADU ordinance, or do we want to put it in the definitions section? All by, where it belongs, right? Some of our ordinances have a few definitions at the beginning for specific clarity. Do we need to keep that new definition? That's where we adopted it, was into the ADU ordinance. Is that where we need to keep it, or should we put it in definitions? Does everybody know what an ADU is, or do we really need to spell it out in the ordinance?
I think it should be in the big definition pile and not in the,
I'd
But
like
I
to
think
get
there's-
all of the
and
definitions.
there could be
in
a
the
reference
definition.
if you need to across the
Okay.
fence back, but I think it should be in the big one.
It's also a copy of the state definition, is that not correct?
It is.
So, yeah, if we have it, it's frustrating having had to do it. Try to find all of the definitions of the same thing and make them all match up. If you have it all in one place, it's not an issue.
It's much easier to find alphabetically when they're where they're supposed to be, sure. And then adding to the ADU ordinance is the prohibition on short-term rentals for ADUs, that they're only to be used for over 30 days. And then some general grammar, spelling, and format fixes throughout the ADU code. The DADU specifically, we're adding in verbiage that they cannot be larger in size than the main dwelling. An accessory DADU was never meant to be the bigger structure, and so we're specifying that. And then we're decreasing the minimum lot size to factor in our new zones. So what that means is if you have a smaller lot, then your minimum will be smaller. It will give you the opportunity to still have a DADU. Your DADU will just have to be smaller because your lot size is smaller. So the requirement will go down based on the size of your lot.
I have a question about that first statement in that, on that slide. Ensuring DADUs, detached ADUs are not, or cannot be larger than the size of the main dwelling.
Yes.
I don't know if this situation exists here, but we have a lot of homes that are older, so they're not as big because people realize they just didn't have to be as big.
Right.
If they're under 1,000 square feet, the current residents, if they build a new building, can that become the new main dwelling?
Of course
And then
it
the
can.
other existing building become the
And the older
DADU?
home, if it fits the DADU parameters, becomes the
Okay.
DADU. It
As long
happens
as
all the
you've
time.
got- As long as you've got enough setback everywhere, you're fine with that.
Yes.
Okay. How would it be? Again, it's probably,
We're zoning for the rules, not the exceptions. We're always
Right.
going to have some exceptions, and we'll try to deal with those as fairly as we can when they pop up. We don't have a ton of them. But yeah, we're trying to make these rules for most every property.
okay,
The instrument by which we will enforce that these ADUs are not used for short-term rental will be through deed restriction. The deed restriction will include the parameters of not having an area that exceeds 1,000 square feet for your ADU. DADU will not be sold separately from the main dwelling, so you can't condominiumize your ADU. That it won't be used for short-term rental purposes, and then will not exceed an occupancy of 2 persons per bedroom. That last line is repetition of existing code. I didn't write that, but someone else did, and so I didn't want to just get rid of it just because it wasn't familiar to me, so we just kept that.
Wouldn't the first line really be less than 1,000 if it was a small, from what you said a minute ago or a few minutes ago? If it's a smaller primary unit, then it can't be 1,000 square feet, so maybe.
It
that
will
needs
be
to
less than.
Reworded to be or appropriate per the main dwelling side, or is there something like that?
Well, the maximum you could go for our largest zone is 1,000. So as long as it doesn't go over 1,000.
Well, I guess what
anywhere,
I'm saying,
it would be
if you're
legal.
putting a
every-
deed resection and it's on one of the small houses,
Sure.
then it won't be 1,000, it'll say something else. So if you might just word that to say that it's whatever it can be, not,
Okay.
because it doesn't apply to a small primary resident.
Okay.
It's a smaller number.
Regarding the second bullet there, not being sold separately from the main dwelling, do we know what has the state toyed with that? Because California toyed with that. Luckily, the people fought it. I don't know if they brought it back.
Yeah,
They-
in California, you can condominiumize your
And the
ADU.
state overrode local zoning. So if we put this in, and is Utah thinking, because the state overrode local and said, hey, you can sell your ADU that you put in your backyard, and then it just increases. It's insane.
You know, if the state legislature decides to do the things that they often do and change the rules, then we'll have to roll with that. But at this time, this is what we would suggest.
So that's something to keep in mind as we
Mhm.
consider what we allow. We need to probably look at that and go, what if Utah decides to cut and paste California, which they've done a few times, which we don't want. And if they're trying to cut and paste that, are we okay with the ADUs that we approve? Are we approving them in such a manner that we're okay with them becoming another dwelling independent? It's just a
And
factor to think.
most of our DADUs follow the development standards, right? They have their own entrance, they have their own driveway, they have their own parking. And so that's why we'll continue to keep those standards for the just in case. It just makes your neighborhoods cleaner when you're not trying to share a driveway.
But here's where the problem exists, and that is that the utilities are run off the main building and including the wastewater and water. So they're not separate.
So good luck splitting them
Yeah,
from a state. perspective.
difficult.
I'm sure with the right resources, it could be
Sure
done,
you
but
could.
it's not something we're not planning. We're not planning ahead for that because that's not something that we've considered.
And so I was wondering
Yeah.
if you were familiar, if they've toyed with it, if you've seen any headlines or any.
No, I
emails
haven't
or-
heard
okay.
anything about that. I think the fact that we've just now started to allow DADUs, it'll be a while before, if that ever were to happen, I think it'll be a while.
And do the DADUs contribute to our affordable housing? Can we count those units?
Once we rewrite our, moderate income housing plan, we could include them.
I think we should. I know
I
other
think it would be a
areas.
great idea.
I know other areas have done that. And what's nice is you have homeowners building an accessory dwelling unit detached from the property. They're taking care of checking the boxes that the state requires of our city without us having to say, hey, let's do high density over here. They get it in their,
Without having to rezone,
Right.
without having to jump through all
Yep.
those hoops. I think it'll provide people a lot of opportunity, and that's really what we want to do. Yeah, so the red lines for the ordinance are here. We just kind of took out that whole section of definitions and put that reference in of where it will be found. And then added in the grammar and the designations of not being used for short-term rental. And then the lot size standards for DADUs. take those notes and when we run those through legal review, we'll make sure that all of those make sense. And then when this comes back to you for public hearing, we'll make sure that you agree with it. So these will stay in box. You can take as much time as you'd like over the next week to look through and see if there's anything
matter of
else
fact,
that you'd like us to address.
all comes up.
Oh,
the
yeah.
meters. Yeah, you're not even allowed to have separate meters.
Thought we could have separate meters if they were already there.
Not for a DADU.
Not for those that are being built from this point on.
And they shouldn't already be there. When you combined your lots, you should have had to abandon your PUE and your additional utility hookups.
Yeah, because we've got 2 sets and it's still there.
Interesting. That was before I got here, right?
And so I was when I'm like, I wonder if.
Anything else about ADUs in the ADU ordinance? Tired of that? Okay.
Next one is the Title 12 and 13 cleanup items, side quests.
Kyle lovingly calls this the side quest ordinance. Marcus doesn't like that very much. So we'll be changing that title for sure. This was kind of the working title, but as we go through code, you guys understand the ripple effect that some of the changes have. And as we go through code and read, we're noticing in places where there's other grammar, spelling, those kind of things that need to be cleaned up, a line here and there to clarify some things. So I have sent Kyle on a few side quests, and here's the slides for these. The first one is comes from the state legislature. They passed a law that says we have to add somewhere in our code that our city will consider the impact a proposed ordinance amending Title 12 may have on family health, stability, and formation. And so we just want to add that right at the beginning of Title 12, that our city will consider the impact any proposed ordinance change may have on family health, stability, and formation. So we have to. This isn't a idea from.
We've also come up with other standards that we have to look at for land use issues that are brought before us, so. Yeah, that really may be more for city council to worry about than
Right.
us.
Well, it's state mandated, so
I know.
if you don't mind, we'll add it in there. Yeah.
The state gave us a pretty vague thing. You will consider family health. Okay, what does that
I
mean?
don't know who wrote that bill, but I'm sure they had their reasons. And there may be something that I don't fully understand about how to use that language in the right way. So I'm attending a planning association conference next month, and they're going to speak to that hopefully, and we'll get some clarity on the actual purpose of this language so that we can use it the way it's intended. The next one is we're asking to add a line about current property tax. Most municipalities make that a part of your application, is that your property taxes have to be current in order to move forward with a land use application. And so we would just like to add that language to our code as well. Making sure an application is complete, including property taxes on the subject property are paid in full. The next one is, we defined structure not too long ago. We tweaked the definition and added it to our subdivision ordinance. Where we didn't tweak it was in our land use ordinance. So we would like to change this definition in 12 to match the one that we recently updated in 13. We don't need to define it twice in two different places in two different ways, so it needs to match.
Would it be easier just to put 13 as a reference back to 12? So if you ever change 12, you don't have to do it.
I think it would be better just to put it in the definitions section as a whole, and make it there one definition section instead of one definitions for 12 and one for 13.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I'll make that as a note for Kyle. Sorry, these are really boring. These are just the little side quests that we went on as we found things that need to be corrected. So in 121080, it says a conditional use permit is required for all uses designated in this title. And it's the conditional use permit title. It kind of just refers back to itself. And so we've completed the sentence by adding in the land use table. What that does is it just clears up the fact that a conditional use permit is required for all the places there is a C shown on the land use table. Let me see if I can go to the red lines. So you can
And
get
one
the
day we'll get
full-
rid of them. Is
the
that the hope?
That's the plan, to just beef up the development standards and not have to do CUPs at all. Unless there's somewhere where you guys really want to keep them. Their structure. Here's how it reads currently. A conditional use permit shall be required for all uses designated in this title. And we added as shown in the land use table, because that's where you really find where the Cs are located. So we're just cleaning that up. Back to my slides. And then lastly, public institutional development applications and zoning amendments will be limited to areas within annexed territory consistent with the applicable provisions of the master plan and general plan. So in our master plan and general plan, it says that we shouldn't be setting aside big swatches of residentially developable land for public institutional uses. That those kind of uses should be coming in as annexations. So as we go further north, and especially on the other side of the highway, that's where the next school might need to be, is further north of town in the annexation area, instead of in the middle of town, in the middle of a residential neighborhood.
Do we even have anything anymore that's big enough to?
In the city, we do. We have a few
Few.
spots that would be big enough. Do the roads support that? Probably not any better than where the elementary school is. But we can see how that has actually been not beneficial to their neighborhood. So I really think that requiring new schools to go out into the annexed area where it makes sense and where bigger roads can be built. I think there's a reason that was put in the master plan, and I think we just need to update our land use code to reflect that.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments about
The
this
very
last one we talked about?
boring side quest.
I'm still awake, so we're doing.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad.
All right, then future items that we have that are coming up.
Future items that you'll hear as a discussion. I don't know if you folks remember the ARIA development. It was one of the first MXD super high density developments that were approved along Wolfpack Way. in our code for MXT development, if you haven't broken ground within 2 years, your approvals expire, and they have not moved forward. They recorded their final plat, but nothing else has happened. And so my intention is to revoke their approval and allow that property to be developed by,
Is this the Long Wolf Pack?
it is.
Yeah.
Is this the one that went and had the city or had the county divide all the properties into the possible? Has it already been?
No, this is the one that didn't have a sewer easement and can't get a sewer easement.
It's
And they
north of the
had,
high school. Right?
no, it's much more north of the high school.
Oh.
They had conditional approval on their final plat pending they get their sewer easement, and they've never been able to do that. Their connection would come from over by the highway. So yeah, they've kind of stalled out, and we'll make sure I've already reached out to the property owner and the developer with our intention. I put it off for a couple of months. I said, I won't put this on the agenda for a while. If you want to try to, get something together and ask for an extension of your time, we're going to give you plenty of time to do that. I haven't heard anything back after our initial conversation. So they do have the opportunity to file for an extension or to come and speak against the revocation of their approval. But we would like for that development to not just be stalled out and sit forever. So this is kind of our way of saying it's time to do something or to do something else. So that will come before you as it's required to be a public hearing. And so that will come before you as a public hearing. And then we'll start on our medium density residential, high density residential, and small lot residential standards, so that you can see them. It'll be great to see them all side by side with the large lot residential, so you can see where all the minimums and maximums line up. So those are already in box as they're evolving, and you can look at them anytime, but they will come as a discussion item hopefully next month. And that's that.
Okay. Next meeting, 2nd of September.
Will we have a quorum for that meeting, or does anybody know if they will be unable to
I
attend?
will, I will be gone. Whether I can be here via Zoom, I won't know till that day.
Okay,
I am here.
As far as I know, I'm here too.
great.
I believe I am. And Melinda, are
I'll
you
be
still
there.
with us?
Yeah, I
Wonderful.
should be available.
Well, that's right. You've got to be here for the public hearing.
All right, I
Yeah,
will not be
so
afraid
excited.
to schedule things for a public hearing that day. Great, thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
People have been looking and saying, I want to listen to the meetings after the fact, and I have trouble finding them myself. Is it on our city website with direct links to our meeting
So
that I'm
let
just,
me see if I can show you.
because if it's not linked on our city website, could we put a link to, and like on the city website, have a planning commission recordings, city council recording right on our city website. So
Did you
people don't
read
have to go to YouTube and Google and look.
So
Did you read it today?
you actually don't have to go to, you could start out by going to meetings and agendas on the Hyde Park City website. That's your link to the YouTube right there. I don't want to double
I went on there today.
Double
I
play
think
us,
it was
but-
The links
there.
are there? Okay, so I'm
Um,
just missing it. So.
the
meetings and
recordings are actually on, let me go back
I
one
didn't
page.
follow all the way through, but I could see.
Yeah, I don't see a recording. If we could, is that a request we could do? It couldn't be that hard to add a link. and
So the
record link.
recordings are uploaded to the state website, but our minutes and the transcription of those minutes are on, let me go to, it's city code, and we just, oh, here it is, city code. And then we have a whole section
Can
that
you
is
show it on the
just
screen?
meeting minutes.
Can you show it on the
Ugh.
screen?
See the meeting minutes and materials and stuff under city council and planning commission?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Would it be easy enough for us to link to the state website where it's sent there? So we said planning commission recordings and city council recordings. That way it's a one-stop shop. And
Okay, so here's your meeting minutes. You just go to, let me back up one
Not
page.
clean it.
So here's the main, let me put it on the, how
Thank
about
you.
this? Okay. So here you are on Hyde Park City website. You're gonna go to meetings and agendas. Over here at Planning Commission, you're gonna go to meeting minutes. And then here's where the meeting minutes all the way back.
Yeah, there's 2026.
Yep. So here's all your 2026s. And you can read all the meeting minutes there. If you want to go to YouTube and watch the meeting, you can do that as well.
Is there a way that we could link that? Because I've had people ask for links and then I spend my time looking for the link and I'm like, man, can't we just link it on our city website? Because there's some people that like to listen as they go walking and stuff.
Here it is. They're all
Oh,
there.
yeah, she just went up to the,
YouTube
At
and
the
go to
top.
Hyde Park City.
So where is it on here?
It is on
Live stream.
city website, meetings and agendas, the live stream.
So live stream takes us to all the recordings.
Yes.
Okay.
Krista in our office has done a really good job of making sure that our public notices are here, our live stream is here, and that agendas, materials, and minutes are here. We have gone so far as to adding a public meeting packet in box so that anybody from the general public can see every piece of information that you guys are getting ahead of time, that it's not just an agenda and we don't know any of the details. We're posting all of the details, completely transparent about meeting materials for our meeting, and they're all posted on the meetings and agendas page of the city website.
I love that because we have several new residents that are moving in and they are eager to get involved.
It's
Learn
it's super easy to find. It's
Could we put live stream
Right
and past meeting recordings right there? Just because I wouldn't have known that. I would think I need to click that to join a live link versus,
sure.
I think that would help our new residents find it easier instead of asking us to do something that would be easy if it was spelled out on our website.
Yep.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Noted.
all right.
All right, let me close
I
out.
think we're all done with the agenda. So nope, you don't need to. Don't lean over. I see you in the corner of my eye. He wants to so bad. That's been taken away.
Oh, he stole it. Under.
He wants to make a motion to end the meeting. Just thank you for everyone. Thank you, Melinda. I hope no grandchildren were harmed in the making of this meeting.
You just had to kiss one while I was trying to talk to you guys.
And we'll see you when you get back. Hopefully
you.
with all your brain cells. So, all right, and we'll adjourn this meeting at this time.
We wore out the audience. Way to go. We have one.
Yeah, we have
that
one
pays-
lone
we give-
survivor.
give us the Prize.
So, and
He
they're all
is
live streamed, right?
consistent.
Anyone wants to watch live,
I think so.
all our meetings are live streamed?
Yeah,
Okay.
all of them.
Cool.
But it's not the same
Not the same as Zoom, they can't.
as the Zoom. They can't make